truly believing in yourself and doing what makes you happy. I think that's really important, to believe in yourself and go after what you want, and don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid if people are telling you no, because if you have that self-belief and you want to go after something, you deserve the chance to do that. And really great things can happen when you really trust yourself and go after what you want.
That was Josette Andrews today on the Running Effect podcast. Josette is a stud. She's a staple in the sport of running. And over the past few years as a professional runner, she's been on fire, and specifically this year in 2025 as she represents On and the On Athletics Club. Based out of Boulder, Colorado, she opened up her season with a massive personal best of 8:29.77 in the 3K at the prestigious Millrose Games, where she placed second in that race. And then a few weeks later, she clocked a speedy 14:44.80 in the 5K, clocking off the new 2025 world standard in the 5K. She's on fire. She also has PRs of 3:59 in the 1500 and 4:20 in the mile. And collegiately, Josette competed for the University of North Carolina in Georgetown. One of her many highlights includes a 2019 fourth place finish in the 5K at the Division I NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships. Today's conversation, I ask her very simple to the point questions, picking her brain on what it takes to run at the next level, what her life looks like, lessons that you guys can learn from one of the best to do it at the professional level, her ambitions for this year, her year last year, how she dealt with setbacks, how you guys can be better at dealing with setbacks, and so much more. If you enjoy this one, share it with a friend. Hit the follow and subscribe button so you never miss another episode, and give us a 5-star review on top of that. Trying to get back on the charts, help us do it. Do all those 3 things. Without further ado, enjoy my conversation with the one and only Josette Andrews. Josette Andrews, welcome to the Running Effect podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
Doing great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to it.
Really enjoyed my conversation with your husband, and he said the whole time you have to get my better half on. So here we are. I'm a man of the people. I do what my guests tell me to do. You told me before starting about your workout this morning, and I said, pause, save it for the podcast. So tell the people the audible that you had to pull.
Yeah, so I had to delay our podcast because we had to do a little change up with our workout today. It was really windy in Boulder, and sometimes the wind is honestly more brutal here than it being cold outside. So we did a full warm up out on the dirt roads, ran out 3 miles. It was a small group of us. Some people were doing long runs. Some of us had some threshold work, and we decided that we did not want to continue and start the workout. So we ran an extra mile to another spot, and still we just thought it wasn't it today. So we all piled up into our assistant coach's car, Kelsey, and there was 8 of us in her car, and she had her kids' chairs in the seat. So we had to all smush in, but we ended up driving back to our cars, going to our gym and doing treadmill workouts. So kind of had to repeat the warm up a bit, but condense it. So just warmed up a mile, and then got into drills, and then did some treadmill threshold and not worry about the wind. But it ended up going well. It's just a long morning when that happens, and pivoting plans like that. But we all got it in, and the guys actually had another workout this afternoon, so they definitely needed to get it in this morning. I was like, ooh, should I just wait till this afternoon? But wanted my coach to be there, so we got it in. It wasn't the most fun, but that's okay.
You took me through kind of the physical preparation starting for that workout and getting yourself warmed up, as you said, literally. What's the mental side? Because I remember a few times back in the day in the winter when that would happen, where I would run 2 miles as my warm up, and then something would come up, and then I would have to re-warm up later. It's mentally exhausting. So how did you feel that first rep when you were okay, we're actually starting? And how did you make sure you were saving something mentally despite all of the adversity? And do you also feel like that was kind of helpful in terms of stuff can go wrong in the call room or the day of the race, and situations like these are really good tests and opportunities to work on adversity?
Yeah, definitely. As an athlete, you have to be adaptable and respond to whatever the elements are. And sometimes you're no, should I just be tough and run in the wind? But then sometimes it's maybe not. Maybe our smartest move is to be protected inside and not have our core working a certain way or our legs going one way. So the main thing was I actually when I got to the gym, I re-warmed up on the treadmill just to get my mind in like a treadmill zone. And to be honest, today I was not feeling that great anyway in the morning. Like it wasn't a very energetic morning. And I just came off like a really great long run on Tuesday. And I think I'm still feeling the fatigue of that long run in me. So today I was more about like, it's just about getting the job done today. Like nothing needed to be flashy. So it's now shifting the focus on the treadmill. And one thing about the treadmill is that you kind of set it and can forget it. So I was just locked into my reps. I was doing 4 by a mile and a half. So I was pretty dialed into just getting that done today and focusing on that and not doing anything fancy, nothing crazy. But yeah, definitely it's hard also with then your day with fueling and things like that. So I was just making sure, like even in the car ride, I'm sipping calories, like taking some bites of bananas, because I just didn't want to be under fueled now that we've already spent like almost 2 hours just with our team and like traveling and things like that. So a little adaptable, but also making sure you're still like taking care of yourself is important. And also rewarming up so you're not going from sitting in a car and then jumping on a treadmill doing threshold reps. But I think it's a little harder when it's a track workout. And one of those is like you're trying to rip it. But that has happened to me before where I've like pivoted onto a different track after a warm up because maybe kids were using it or things like that. And it definitely takes a lot of mental focus, but I think as professionals, like we're very dialed in and determined with what we're doing. So I think we have the skills that prepare us for things like that.
You mentioned the jumping out of the car right into the workout. Was there ever an occasion in Josette's history, like middle school, high school, where like you just didn't warm up at all, or like you arrived too late to a meet, or you missed the memo on warming up on the right time and had to go right into your race or workout?
Oh man, once I was taking a test and almost missed like the state sectional meet, and I did not warm up for that race, and I was running like a 2 mile at the state sectional. I think I did like a 5-minute warm up, but that was a pure, we are running so late because I tried to take a test in the morning and then drive a couple hours to the state sectional meet. And I was very upset in the car. I remember in high school, but in situations like that, like when the weather was bad or things like that, you just sometimes you would just like take off. Like it wouldn't be as intense. But now as a professional, like when it's your job, it's not that simple.
How much do you value?
You can't just like throw it off.
Right. This is probably better suited for like a sports physiologist, but like how much do you value the warm-up process, both physically and mentally? And you know, you've run some really, really fast times recently, including I think 14:44 in the 5K. Like how much slower do you think your race time would be if you didn't warm up at all and just like went straight into it, no warm up?
Oh, that would be painful. That would be painful. I don't know how sometimes Dathan like jumps
it differently.
Yeah, sometimes Dathan like jumps into the end of like our reps without any warm up, and while he's doing it and like running in front of me or whoever it is, I'm just like, ouch. Like it just sounds not fun, but I definitely would have to approach it a lot differently because I use the warm up, especially in like workouts and races. Like I like to keep the same routine of what I'm going to do on workout days and race days. And even this indoor season, I changed up a little bit. We do this morning, on a morning race or the morning of the race, we do a little shakeout and this like activation from our lifting coach, Jason. And you're doing a couple band things and it doesn't get you tired, just kind of getting the neural system like fired up and ready to run fast in the afternoon or a couple hours later. And I actually started to do that this indoors on our hard workout days, just to like mimic the exact same process, like eating the exact same things that I would normally eat. And I think that also mentally got my mind like in the right spot going into the indoor races where it was like, because I was opening up at Millrose, and sometimes it's hard when you're like your first race is these big races, and that's been like the trend the last few years of like opening up at these bigger races. And it's like I want to be both mentally and physically sharp going into this, like I'm practicing with my workouts. So I definitely like to keep the same routine with those things.
Speaking of the treadmill, I know a lot of people find this just might be a rookie thing. I remember feeling this back in the day. I can't tell you the last time I ran on a treadmill, but like, and that's not because I'm hard. That's because I legitimately did not really run this winter because it was too cold in Ohio.
Oh no.
I'll be honest. But a lot of people find it harder. So let's say like your pace this morning, I'll just throw out a number. Let's say it was 5:20. A lot of people find 5:20 pace to feel way easier on the road or on the track. And then when they get on the treadmill, 5:20 pace feels like a sprint or like 4:50 pace. Does it feel generally pretty similar to you? And if not, how long did it take you to kind of like adjust to the feeling of it?
Yeah, it definitely feels a bit harder for me to hit the paces on the treadmill, but I've gotten so much better at it. I used to think I wasn't able to run fast on the treadmill like years ago. I was like, oh, I'm just like a slow treadmill runner, like even for recovery days. And I still like, if I'm just doing a shakeout on the treadmill, I definitely start the treadmill really slow, like a lot slower than I would start outside. But now I've gotten to be doing a lot of treadmill workouts with OAC, just with the weather and how things have worked out, like a lot of threshold. And I've gotten a lot better at it, and like the stride and just how you're running and mechanically like on the treadmill. So it's gotten a lot easier just by doing it, but it definitely is a learning curve for everyone, it seems like. And I do think the woodways that we have help a lot compared to some other treadmills. And maybe it's the woodways and the super shoes, but it's making it feel easier. But it's definitely easier to run outside for sure, especially on the track too. And we do a lot of threshold also on the track because it is very controlled and can be a little faster actually.
I've always wondered that too. Like, I haven't run on a woodway, but I'm like, is this just a cheap treadmill problem where like this isn't 8-minute pace? So I wonder if that's the case too with some people where it's like legitimately treadmills just are not accurate and you have to get on a woodway. I don't know. Not to plug woodway, they're not paying me.
Yeah. But. Well, one of the treadmills we're like convinced is way slower than all the others. So like no one ever wants to work out on that one. We call it like the slow treadmill. And Dathan used to be like, we had like 2 of those, and Dathan would be like, okay, you 2 are on that one, which means like your workout was going to be harder that day because you had to run on the slower treadmill. We're like, we don't think this is really a mile. Like this must be more. But I avoided that one today. I went straight for one of the faster ones.
There you go. You're like, let's make today easy.
Yeah, I needed it mentally.
Yeah, very fair. If I talked to you last year around this time, if I'm not mistaken, I could have my timeline a little bit off. But you ran the 2024 World Indoor Championships, and I think shortly thereafter got injured. And I know a lot of last year was trying to like piece as many puzzle pieces as you could with the situations you were given and dealing with injuries and setbacks. We can get into that in a second, but we're talking about running 4 by mile or 4 by mile and a half this morning, and like you're training and you're clearly in it this year. You just ran, 14:44. You ran 8:29 at Millrose. How good does it feel to like be back and to have momentum in March heading into the outdoor season?
Yeah, it feels amazing. Like it's just so nice when you feel like things are clicking both mentally and physically. And just this season and after this fall season, things have transitioned really well. And I like even told the coaches in my meeting the other week, like I just feel very in control of what I'm doing, whether that's like having lived at altitude for 2 years, been under Dathan's training for 2 years, or just how I'm recovering and things like that. Like I just feel very in control of what I'm doing. And I've always been able to like handle and done Dathan's workouts, but this year it just feels like I'm at like a different elevated level, which is really exciting because I did miss so much of last year. And even this fall, we were like, we're going to take it really slow. Like we're going to keep PTing your foot just to make sure nothing comes up as we ramp up like mileage. But we took that slow with the mileage and even the threshold work and just like building up really slowly and even delaying like getting onto the track. But once we did get on the track, like things clicked a lot quicker than they even have in the last 2 years with just like my stride, my speed, the VO2 workout. So I was really like pleasantly surprised coming into this new year where things were at. And we didn't necessarily plan to even have an indoor season. We put Millrose on the schedule as something like, hey, the team's all going here. You've run it the last 3 years. Like, well, we're going to put it on the schedule and we'll make a decision if we want to do it or not. And I think the pressure of not going into the season with any races, like I was just really focused on like listening to my body and like progressing each day. And then by the time January came around, it was like, oh wow, like we're in a really good spot. Like I'm getting like excited now to go and race. So that was really exciting and motivating going into Millrose. And I think it surprised a lot of people after the race. Like a lot of my reaction was like, oh wow, like that was out of nowhere, Josette. But to me, I was seeing it in training, and I wasn't surprised with my performance. Like I did feel like I was in sub 8:30 shape, and I did feel any race I go into, I want to contend for the win. And I do have a lot of self-belief, and I think that's one thing that I take a lot of pride in. Like I do believe in myself, and I want to give myself a chance on the starting line and always be competing for the win. And that's what I tried to do at Millrose. And I came away with second, but with a huge personal best. And I knew I was in a good spot, and just really excited with how I even came off of that race and how my body like reacted coming off of that. So yeah, we're in a really good spot right now. And just, we added the 5K kind of just as an extra race in the indoor season, because we really felt like I could get that standard out of the way and put up a fast 5K time and hope that it would open some bigger doors for outdoors. So I was relieved to have gotten that out of the way, given the race, and just like having to just push it from the front for a lot of it. But we got that out of the way, and now we took a down week, and now it's just about like building back up for the outdoor season. And that's what I missed last year, because I did get hurt like right after World Indoors last year, having a full indoor season. And that was really hard in an Olympic year when you're finding out in the middle of March that you're about to take 8 weeks off. And I'm like, this is the point of the season where I need to be training. Like I need to be hitting the mileage and doing things like that. So I'm grateful to be having that this year. And that's something I think that is going to really help me for the outdoor season.
I know 2021 didn't go as well as you would have hoped, as well as you would have like dreamed and trained and believed. And so then I'm sure you shift your sights the next 3 years to 2024, right? And then you get this news of the injury of your foot in the 8 weeks. How did you handle that information? And what was the process of going through that setback and just like emotionally processing the news that like you still had a chance for sure on paper, but as you were saying, like, this is not what I need to be doing in this moment to make the team?
Yeah, I think I was still holding on to the hope of that, like, hey, we can still have like 6 to 8 weeks to get ready for the trials, but it's going to be a grind. And Dathan was like, we can cross train as hard as we can to get you to a spot where you're not going to lose so much fitness. So then when we do transition to running on the track outdoors, like we can see if we can piece it together. But it was hard. Like I think I was just so hyper focused on cross training, and I've never cross trained so hard in my entire life, like been so committed to it. But I was like, this is the only thing I can do right now to try to maintain some fitness. So that was just like really the focus of like letting my body heal, cross training. And of course, it was still rushed. Like by the time the trials came, like I definitely had my spikes on earlier than I should have, and just like opening up at the Olympic trials, not ideal, especially when there's 2 rounds in a 5K. So it was really tough because I regretted running the indoor season, because I was like, well, maybe if I didn't run these 4 races indoors, we could have prevented it to get to this point, because it started as a planner thing and turned into a bone thing. And I was like, I regret it letting it get to a bone thing, but honestly, I didn't really realize how bad I had been compensating. So I regretted running indoor worlds, but it's like, oh, it's so hard to turn down an opportunity to run at a world championship. And I still thought we would be okay with like a down week during the transition of indoors to outdoors. So yeah, it was really, really tough. And that's why this year we approached it where it's like, we're not focusing on indoors. We're just focusing on getting you healthy, because I still raced like late in the summer last year, but I didn't have much of a base. Like I could get back on the track and do these workouts that I was impressed I was able to do, but I don't think I had the foundation under me to really like drive to get that point of like, yeah, you're fit, but like something's missing. And I do think I thrive off of that fall training, like whether it's like fartleks, like long runs, distance runs, like that's what I need to get ready for a track season. So missing that and like missing the build up, like I didn't hit one, like I wasn't able to run any long runs starting January once I started racing a lot. And just like the mileage is just, I was not training where I should have been to try to contend to make an Olympic team. And that's really it.
What would you say to someone out there who's in the midst of a setback, in the midst of an injury? Like you kind of took us through how you got it through it there, but can you dive deeper into how to get through hard things in the sport? Because I think runners are delusional, and we should be, right? I think that's how you accomplish great big things in the sport. But also, there's the raw reality that running is an unforgiving sport, and things happen and things pop up. And if you're gonna be as good as you can be, you're probably gonna ride that line a little too close to the sun occasionally. So, how would you say people can be better and be more equipped to handle setbacks?
Yeah, I think really trusting yourself and having self-belief is a big part of that. Like I was really trusting in what I was doing and like really focused on what I was doing like day to day, week to week. And the biggest thing I was doing was not looking at like, oh my gosh, Josette, the Olympic trials are in this many weeks. Like you have this many weeks to train. I was really focused on like the day to day. And I think that helped me a lot mentally, like through the weeks of training to not be in this like super high stress. Of course, it was still stressful as it like lingered closer and closer. But I think breaking down and knowing that you're doing everything you can in this moment and in this setback, like you're controlling what you can control and you're doing the best with what you have. And knowing that not every person's buildup is perfect. Like no one is going to have the perfect buildup and everyone's coming to a race a different way. And I did that a lot in college. So I knew that my journey to getting to the NCAA championship looked a lot different than somebody else's. So I think I really trusted in myself and that like, I can still do this. And I still believed I could getting on that line. Like, and I was still able to get there and getting on that line. It's like everyone has a shot. And I unfortunately like didn't make the team and it wasn't the buildup I would have wanted, but I did everything I could to get to that point. And I was like really patient with myself with also just like rushing things to get to the Olympic trials. And that's like a really unique case because if it would have been any other year, I think I would have just not rushed coming back and just taken the year off. But it's really hard to say that when it's an Olympic year and that's a big goal of yours. So that is a very unique situation when it happens to fall in an Olympic year for sure.
You've mentioned belief a few times in this conversation. I know it's such a core pillar of athletes like yourself and how you've been able to go as far as you have been. For those who struggle with belief out there, where should they start in terms of harnessing more self-belief? And it's probably something not even just for that select group. Every single person, including you and I, can probably grow more in self-belief and work on negating those doubts.
Yeah, I think self-belief, of course, that's coming from within, but sometimes you can have that self-belief, but it's kind of pushed a little down. And in college, I still like had these dreams and this belief that I could get to this level if I had the chance. And I think surrounding myself with people that also believed in me and were going after a similar goal of helping me achieve what I wanted to achieve, that really helped it flourish. Like when my college coaches believed in me like being on the same page with my best friends and teammates, my husband, Robbie, at the time, like I had a really great support system helping me be able to achieve my goals. They're like, how can we help you? And that really helped me like be able to bring out that self-belief and show it and gain that confidence. And then things just clicked and clicked and clicked. And I think sometimes you can always want something, but sometimes you need that little push to be able to help you like believe and know that you can achieve it. And I really do trust in my training and what I'm doing and like following the journey. Like I'm not afraid to be patient with things and let it come to me. And I think having that trust in what you're doing pays off over time for sure.
What would you say, kind of bridging the gap between last year and this year, what would you say is the biggest lesson you learned last year that you're bringing with you into this year, 2025?
I think it's really listening to my body. That's a big one. And knowing that if I can put in the weeks consistently and feeling good, a lot of things could happen for this next year. And I just really want to be in a place where if I'm healthy and consistent and calm, like that is really where I'm able to flourish and thrive. So when my training things, I just think I I feel very like in control of what I'm doing. And I think that's really helped me like week to week and also getting me excited to run again. Like last year was definitely really scary with a lot of unknowns, but I really have had this like excitement to be running and just like felt really calm. And I feel like I do run my best when I do give off like this calm energy and like workouts. I'm not like tense, like just like relax the shoulders, Josette, like keep working through things. And it's been able to show in practice and now with these last two races. So
obviously you've had many chapters in your running career, from your high school years to UNC and Georgetown to your professional years with Reebok to now on in the OAC. How would you describe like 2025? If it was a chapter, like how do you feel? Where's your mind at? Where's your energy at? And what do you kind of want to accomplish in this next stage of your running career, as well as like how would you describe this stage of your running career?
yeah, I feel like I've made it like, it's crazy that I've already been doing this now for 5 years in the pro career. Like that's really exciting and cool. And I've made a couple big changes and started to really focus on the distance events. And I feel like I'm now like in a place where I can really like show off that everything that I've worked towards. And I'm really happy with how this year has started and like the place I'm in right now. And I feel really good about each race I'm going to be stepping on the line with outdoors and like giving it my all to show what I can do. And I really feel like there's a big breakthrough like going to happen this year. And my big goal is making the Tokyo Outdoor Worlds team. And that's what I'm really focused on. And I want to make my first outdoor team really bad. And that's why we even approached this indoor season differently than before. We didn't do it the same way that I have in the past. That hasn't necessarily led to making an outdoor team. So I feel like we've learned a lot from the past few years and we've made those changes now to really let myself thrive this outdoor season. So I'm really exciting and trusting in those changes.
Kind of off the line, like I asked you about this earlier in terms of like 2021 hopes, 2024 hopes. Like, do you get nervous when you think about a U.S. Championships at this point, or is it a point of excitement where you're like, I'm taking all the right steps. I know that when I line up, I'm going to be ready. Like, what's your general composure? And as a professional athlete, are there things you're doing like visualization? Like, how are you making sure that when you get to that day that I'm sure you dream about and think about every day, like it's not too much for the moment, you're not too nervous?
Yeah. So in 2023, I finished fourth in the 5K that year at that champs. And I think going into that one, I had a really healthy buildup, but I went into that race, like I was already like pretty tired in that season. And that was only in June or July in that part of the year. And I had joined the team that year and raced already in Europe a couple times and was running a lot of 1500s. And we didn't really know necessarily, like, is Josette running the 15 or the 5K? And after that year, we really have dedicated like training towards the 5K. And now it's been 2 years of doing that. And I can really see the growth that I've made just in my development. Because I would say I came in like underdeveloped. Like I feel like there's a lot more in me to grow, whether it's like just training volume, mileage, like there's a lot more that we can keep growing with things. And now I'm in a place where I feel like that's finally showing. And so now going into the champs, like I can know with full confidence, like, hey, we've been training for this, like we're doing this and you're prepared for this. So I think just being able to elevate over the years with what my training is and elevating that confidence and just approaching the buildup in a way where I'm going into the champs, like both excited and healthy, like that's going to be the biggest thing. And now we kind of know what that takes to do that over the years. But yeah, it's definitely a nerve-wracking meet. There's a lot of pressure at that meet. But in years past, the buildups haven't necessarily been perfect in the other years. And 2021, that was my first like real year as a professional. I was having this huge breakthrough, but I never went into that year even thinking about making the Olympic team, which is so crazy to think about. It just like kind of happened so quick physically, but I wasn't there mentally. But now the last few years, like I have been there mentally, but maybe I haven't been there physically. So now it's like about aligning those two at the championships.
Speaking of that event that you participate in, specifically the women's 5K in the U.S., I would say like, oh, it's so stacked. Honestly, U.S. is just killing it in every event. It seems from the sprints all the way to the jumps to the 10K. Like we're just crushing it, and that's super cool to, as a fan, like see and be a part of in terms of it being my own country. What's your general though perspective on the 5K as an event and just like how stacked it is, how good it is? How it seems like national records are like falling, or at least like people being in shape to hit national records, and just the depth of competition where it's like debatably every year there's like 6-7 people who could get those 3 spots, and it's kind of up for grabs. And even like the difference between 1 and 2, I hope I'm not wrong on this, but like Ellie and Elise in the 5K like it's close, it's really close, and the margin for error is very small.
Yeah, it's the US is elevated so much, like, and I always have believed like the US is the hardest team to make, and it's really showing that in the last few years. You really have to be on your A game for that meet because there's so many people that can make the team, but it's a matter of who makes it on that day. So it's been really cool to see how much the events have elevated and how fast everyone's running and just like approaching training to the 5K, even the 1500. Like it's just like, it's so exciting seeing the US thrive in those events. And I want to be part of that, and I want to be in that conversation of like competing for the team. So I think even just you have to train really hard. Like it's like we're training really hard to be able to make that team, especially as a US athlete. Like you're not, it's a matter of like who's showing up on that day, and that's what's really important, and that's a hard thing to do. So and if you can do it on that day, it's like you deserve to be on that team. So, and I want to be contending for one of those 3 spots, and no, then I deserve to be on that team because I placed top 3 at the championships.
How do you get it right on the day? Like, and I know that's a sophisticated question that seems like a simple one, but it's like you are training right now in March and have been, everything you do this year, as you said, is like geared towards probably the US championships, probably the world championships a little bit in the back of your head, but the path to worlds is through the US championships. Like how do you get it right on the day? And maybe through your experience, like it's something you've dealt with at every level as an athlete, from that sectional meet when you almost missed it, like you had to get it done on the day, to make the state championships, to like college. That's honestly such a big thing. I feel like at the NCAA meet is debatably a lot of times there's like more pressure on the NCAA cross meet for athletes. Like there's so much pressure, and like because 6 other people are relying on you. And then at the professional stage, it's like, yeah, you can unlock the dream of going to the world championships or Olympics, like if you get it right on the day. So few people do it. What do you think goes into like having it on the day? And for 14 minutes, quite frankly, it's like, so it's not long. Yeah. Not really a day, 14 minutes.
Yeah. I think it's taking everything that you've been doing, one, over the years to that season, and like the momentum that you're building throughout the year and the confidence. Like you have to be confident, and you also have to be fit, like to be able to compete and know that you're here, like you've done what it takes to get to the starting line. And now it's like, you're going to race the race that it is, whether it's going to be tactical, whether it's going to be slow. Like you need to be able to adapt and race. Like it comes down to racing. And I think as professionals, like we get to practice that a lot throughout the season, and you take the good and the bad when it comes, and you want to get it right on the day. And it's not the easiest thing to do, but also the people that are good at winning races usually show up and are able to get top 3 at the championship. So practicing racing and championship style races, and just like going into races competing for the win. Like when you're going into the win, competing for the win, usually fast times follow. And just like how I'm approaching my races this year, like I'm going to go in and compete for the win, and then try to compete for the win at the championship. So I think just you're practicing it with your training, and you're racing throughout the season, and just all the years that you've been training as a professional. So it's an accumulation of everything for sure.
Totally.
And just controlling what you can control, hopefully not getting sick, eating the right foods, not getting food poisoning, all those little things. But yeah, because you never know what the day is going to bring, but whether it's weather or things, but you got to control what you can.
What would you say to a quote unquote like ordinary athlete listening, or they could be, a really good high schooler, collegiate, 60-year-old who is training for their first marathon? What lessons do you think they can learn from what you know as a professional runner and like what has taken you to the next level and ultimately made you faster at its core? What do you think these people listening today can, one or two tangible things, take away and apply to their own running to become better?
Yeah, I don't think it happens overnight. Like for me too, especially, it's been a journey and a progression and ebbs and flows. And over that journey, I've always been patient with myself and trusted in what I was doing. And I think those are two really important things going into your training and how you're approaching things. Like really be patient with yourself, trust yourself, and consistency is so huge in this sport. And if you're able to consistently put together these blocks of training and you're having fun with it and enjoying it, like that's when you're going to see that you're thriving and get excited, put a race on the schedule. And I think that really helps you kind of like stay motivated in what your goals are. But really seeing like the big picture, I think is really important. And then working back from that big picture and just focusing on like your day to day and your week to week, because don't let yourself be like overwhelmed with like the thought about like in 6 months you have this big race. It's like, okay, so what am I doing today to get better for tomorrow? And I think that's a really important question to be asking yourself. Like, is this thing today helping me be better tomorrow or the next day or the next week? And I think that's what a lot of professionals ask themselves like every day with what they're doing and recovering. It's like, is this what's best for me today? And also trusting your body. Like if something's sore or hurting that day, it's like, okay, maybe taking today off is what I need to feel better for my workout in 3 days. So I think that comes with a lot of growth, and also you learn and make mistakes, and that's okay. I think all of us as professionals have made mistakes and things we regret, and I know I have. And it's just about learning from those mistakes and being better because of it.
Speaking specifically on in the OAC, what would you say makes this group special, and how do you feel as like no longer like a newbie to the team? Like you're seasoned, you definitely like understand Dathan, understand his training at this point, and have also gone through, that like first original season where you like had just joined the team, fourth at USA's, which is like a good performance, and then like a year of setbacks and injuries. Like you've kind of gone through it all with him at this point. What's that relationship like, and how has that developed over the years?
Yeah, being with the On Athletics Club has been amazing. Like it's such a great group of runners, and it's really cool that we come from such different backgrounds with the sport too, and represent a lot of different countries and have the men and the women together. And we just brought on a bunch of new people, and the energy has been like incredible, especially growing the women's side a little bit more. It's been really fun to work out with the new teammates, and just also me and Dathan, our relationship has grown, and he's gotten to know me as an athlete and know what I thrive off of, what I need to work on better. Like, where do you see me going with this sport? So it's just been like learning each other and getting to know each other, which has also been incredible. And just even being at altitude for 2 years, like that makes a big difference too, of just like things have really like settled in. And I really enjoy like also helping my teammates, like with my new teammates, like showing them things and like advice that I have. Like I take a lot of like pride doing that and like helping others. So that's been really fun now being on the team, not as a newbie, and just like taking that like authority too, and helping when I can, because I think I also thrive as a runner when I'm doing that too. So yeah, it's been really, really nice. And I almost feel like I'm in this spot where it's like, okay, like it's been 2 years now, and I think we're really going to see those benefits this year with my racing and just like mentality and my physical gain. So it's like, it's exciting.
Josette, final serious question for you. For those who have listened to this conversation or inspired by you, what you've accomplished within the sport, what would be the final takeaway message that you want to leave with the audience today?
My final takeaway message, which I've been saying a couple times on this podcast, is truly believing in yourself and doing what makes you happy. I think that's really important, to believe in yourself and go after what you want, and don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid if people are telling you no. Because if you have that self-belief and you want to go after something, you deserve the chance to do that. And really great things can happen when you really trust yourself and go after what you want. And that would be my That would be my advice for the audience.
On a lighter note, I intentionally said serious there. Coffee. Tell me about it, Josette. What should I know about coffee?
Oh man. Yes. Well, I've become a big coffee nerd, especially in the past year. It started actually when we were in St. Moritz, when I was in St. Moritz with the team for the first year. And a lot of people on my team are into coffee. And I enjoyed drinking coffee, but I'd never got into doing it so intensely in myself. And I started watching a ton of YouTube, like so much YouTube on coffee and workflows and things. And I've become like a big coffee nerd, especially in the sense of like the workflow with like my accessories, my grinder, my WDT, the distributor, tamper. So I love making people coffee and working on my latte art. I actually drink Americanos most of the time, but I'll just make myself cortados to work on my latte art or make Robbie lattes. I make him a lot of lattes, but I've had a lot of people on the team over so I can show off making people coffees, and just got a brand new grinder, which has been really exciting to the coffee workflow. But yeah, I very much enjoy the experience of coffee making and drinking it and going to cafes, but more like home espresso is where it's at.
As someone I love coffee, but as someone who has very base level understanding, what would you say like separates good coffee from great coffee? Is it the beans? Is it like how it's like brewed? Take me through that.
Yeah. So I would say, honestly, the most important thing first is the beans. Then it's your grinder. Then it's your workflow. And then it's the machine. So if you can have the fresh beans that you like, and really, they're honestly the most important thing, like putting in good beans into and finding the flavor profiles that you like the most, whether it's light roast, medium roast, dark roast, and those flavor profiles, like finding the fresh beans and putting the right beans into also a good grinder. And then your workflow, like whether you're WDTing and really getting the puck in a spot where like a nice flow of coffee can come out. Those are really important steps, honestly. So I would say like that's the main order. Like you don't have to get the fancy machine first. It's honestly working on dialing in those other things that make or break the coffee, and the water. If you're not using clean water, you could have the most expensive beans and the nicest grinder, but your water is really important of what you're putting it through. So that's also important to be testing your water.
So fascinating. So many depths to it. What's something within this sphere that like you want to get better at, or you're excited to like learn more about?
Ooh, okay. I honestly want to start making like point of view videos of me making coffee and like working on the latte art at the end. But I even got one. This is so embarrassing, but I got one of like where you can put your phone on like one of those helmet things. And I tried to do the point of view, but I could honestly not see what I was doing it with my phone blocking my view. So I need to work on finding a way to show my Instagram friends how I make my coffee. But I really honestly want to get into like make a coffee with me and be posting about coffee more, and also just working on making fun latte art videos because people like that stuff. So yeah, those would be the two that I want to work on.
I'd imagine you want to open a coffee shop of some sort one day, or no? Like what's your
Oh my gosh.
You're pretty intricate. You're in deep.
Well, Robbie and I always joked actually about he makes like the best buttermilk pancakes, like homemade buttermilk pancakes. And we always said we were going to open our own diner. Like he would make pancakes and I would make the coffee. I don't know if we would serve anything else because I don't know how we would be. We'd have to hire other people, but we would call it Rosie's Diner because we'd put Robbie and Josie together and make it
nice.
Rosie's Diner. But he would be on a pancake duty and I'd be on coffee duty. But it wouldn't be diner coffee. It would be an elevated coffee. So we always joked about that. But yeah, premier price, premier machines. But that would be cool. But or little, it would be really fun and like a pop up in your like house or apartment. Like, hey, come over and I'm about to do a pop up of like me making everyone coffees for a party. I have done that before, but like then you just miss the party where I've had like everyone over and I'm like, yeah, I'll just make 5 espressos right now for everybody. And my workflow takes me so long I need to work on that.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, this agency, I'm missing the entire like hangout right now while everyone's watching NCAs or doing something. I'm like, oh no, I can't make everybody coffee right now.
My brother will do that with his apartment. Him and his wife, they'll do like, they call it like a coffee house, and it's like a 2-hour open period, and they will like, it's actually really cool. They make a graphic at a time. They like say the 3 drinks they're making, like the pastry they're making, and they'll just send it to their friends. It's actually really cool. So
that is so cute. Okay, actually, that's what I want to do. Like, and maybe Robbie can cook some food for people, but they can come over and have a menu to pick from. But that's so cute. Yeah, that sounds like something I would enjoy for sure.
On the food note, my final question for you, the question I ask every single guest on every single episode: if Gordon Ramsay was coming over to your house for dinner, what would you choose to make for him?
Ooh. Oh, man. Honestly, I might just have to go with something that I make a lot and I know is good. A salmon teriyaki rice bowl with like stir fry veggies, because it always tastes delicious, and I'm really good at cooking salmon right now. That's kind of my go-to. Robbie does a lot of cooking, but I'll always be in charge of salmon night. So I think I'd feel comfortable making him that and not get yelled at, and I think he might enjoy it.
Well, Josette, thank you so much for this conversation. So many insights and wisdom from your successful career, and really excited for you that things are clicking, and excited to see all the things you'll accomplish. And I'm sure you'll be back on soon with your other half. We'll run it back with the 3 of us soon. Appreciate you.
That'll be so fun. Thank you.